hop into a different lobby, everyone. Chip from space.
I don't see it.
So I think we'll wait a sec while BTM finds that lobby. Or were we just saying Chip from Space was unable to attend the last Strawberry Series tournament, and I think it ended up going to Swifty, but they did play a show match afterwards. I don't know the exact performance of those two players in that show match, but I'm pretty sure Swifty was looking real strong that day. So I'm sure he gave Chip a run for his money, and I am positive he won at least one game.
Well, here we go right now into the drafting screen. Chip from Space versus Otter right now. We're going to see Otter. We go with the same deck we went last time, I believe. And here we go. Game number 1, Chip in the north. Wow, they are very close to each other. Chip into the northwest, while Otter down to the northeast. So they are very close to one another, and it's going to be Otter who has the high ground.
Ooh, BTM, their borders are touching. That's never okay. You want that? You want a little bit of room for the Holy Ghost in there, and they did not leave it in this spawn, and so we'll see how aggressive that forces them to be.
Oh man, and this is a really unfortunate map. Otter doesn't really have lizards to really leverage that closeness, so he's gonna have to rely on defending with his toads at the moment here. But it does look like both sides opening with the 6 farms first. It's gonna be very interesting to see what Chip decides to do. We've seen him play a lot in the 5 farm meta, 6 farm meta. It looks like he's going to be putting down his first warren, prompting a response immediately from Otter. And Squirrels on the high ground, a really nice choice indeed.
Yeah, this is going to be, it's good for 2 reasons. He's going to get some awesome vision of whatever Otter's trying to do, and then also that's some great reinforcement distance if he tries to make some sneaky corner pig pushes. Otter smartly deciding not to build a pig on that edge corner closest to his ramp, and so that'll hopefully make his defense a little bit earlier here, as Chip is definitely gearing up for possibly some aggression, going up to 6 lizards off only 5 farms.
Yep, he is going to be a little bit careful though. So Chip from Space going to use this time to build up his own farm, while Otter also going to be building up his own warren of toads here. But looks like he's going to try to see if they make the first attack. He's going to ring his way around. There's another opening here to the east. He's going to try to take down as many farms as he can. It's 1 pig down. And that's going to be it for now. 1 pig for a lizard. It's going to be pretty good for him. Actually, no! Otter! He actually overextends! He's going to lose his squirrels, but the toad is there just in time to save the day and push Chip back ever so slightly.
He perfectly softened up enough of those lizards that toad connection was all he needed to pretty much clear out the rest of that aggression, because that was going to get pretty sticky pretty quick. He was playing ring around the Otter there.
But here's the nice thing, though. The thing is that he did lose a farm off of that, and Chip already making his way to the 8th farm, building up. Otter a little bit behind at the moment here, still only on 6 farms, and Chip might increase that lead here, but looks like Otter has the toads in a good position here to fend off against Chip, so Chip gonna think twice about sending his lizards into a suicide mission here.
3 toads are definitely enough to defend against a pretty good, probably even up to 9 lizards. 3 toads is a good thing to have chilling out in your pig farms.
Okay, for a moment there, I thought Chip was going to rush in as soon as he saw the commander die, but he's just going to make sure that there's no hidden warrens behind, or no like TR3s rushing or anything like that. He's going to stand back and wait for a little bit. Meantime, it's going to be Otter who's going to poke his head out just a little bit here, see if we can poke at this warren. So forcing Chip to wrap his way around here. He's going to go for the snipe once more. Is he going to be able to do it in time? Gets the farm and is able to just get that. So just poking his head out, in and out, just trying to keep Otter on his toes.
That's so frustrating when you're against that kind of playstyle, because he didn't even lose a single lizard right there. So that's pretty rough when your opponent just gets completely free damage like that. And so Otter's gonna see if he can make some tiny adjustments in his defensive style here, and see how he's gonna come back from this aggressive style coming out of Chip. Going up to 2 skunks now.
And we are going to see Chip. He has his own army coming out at the moment here as well, defending from the front line. Otter going mostly for the squirrel tactic, but he does have to think about teching up very soon, but he doesn't really have the time yet because he's been spending most of it defending his base. So Chip from Space is definitely going to get a leg up early with that skunk warren after all this aggression here.
And having to constantly rebuild these farms is definitely just keeping him tamped down. He's having trouble rebounding from the economic disadvantage Chip's putting him in. So Chip's going to actually decide to take this extra gristmill here. He doesn't have any structure, so it looks like that is just going to be the possible expand as he starts to slowly push out and harass with the skunk.
Scavenger will have 2 warrens of pigeons though, so that's going to be very useful against defending off against the skunk gas, at least healing up any units that get caught in the gas. Now, skunk DPS not that fast when facing off against pigeon healing.
Skunks really only do well in these kind of like long, protracted engagements. They're really good retreat artists as well. Just pop off those things. He's going to move in and try to gas some of these pigs. I actually don't know the stats on how easy it is for a skunk to kill a pig.
It depends. Like, the thing here is that Otter has a lot of pigeons here, but it looks like Chip, he's going to slowly inch his way through behind the cover of smoke. He's actually going to go for the Warren right next to Otter's base, trying to push him out of the area as much as possible here. And this is actually going to be really huge. The way that bases are calculated, it's the tile goes to whoever has the closer mill. So this is definitely going to cut off Otter by lots here if this happens. And right now, he's just trying to worm his way around here. The tier 2 coming out from Otter. The snake is going to come out very soon here, though. And that's going to be a big boon. But Chip, he's going to split up his army, go for the lizards, trying to snipe the pigs. And at the same time, that snake's going to come out trying to do damage against the skunks. But Chip does the economic damage. 3 farms going to be taken as casualties on the side of Otter. But Chip also does lose his skunks for the time being.
Some great multitasking come out of Chip, but Otter definitely didn't necessarily get a terrible engagement out of that. He's got to make something work with the army that he has, because 3 farms to 4 is lucky that he hit the 5-minute mark, because the farm sniping that Chip just did isn't going to hurt quite as bad as it would otherwise if they're still on 8 farm economies, but he's got to think about moving out with what he had. That engagement went okay for him.
He's also still free to rebuild the farms if needed to, as they still have plenty of food left in them. So there's still something he can fall back on just in case it comes to a starvation game. But right now, just both sides chipping away at each other right now, as Chip is trying to inch his way forward with the help of the skunk guys, trying to push out Otter. But Otter's also trying to make sure his toads stay alive to make sure he has something against this massive amount of lizards. And to force Otter back for the time being, as Chip still has full control of most of the map right now.
Chip's going to circle around again. He's playing his favorite game here. He's going to come snipe these things. Unfortunately, Otter is way out of position, so he's going to get pretty much his pick of the litter on whatever he wants to snipe here.
It's 2 farms and a snake warren. It's pretty huge for Chip. Otter still has the snakes at the very least, but that's a lot. Again, more economic damage going the way of Chip. Just making sure he's slowly wearing down his opponents. Death by 1,000 paper cuts is his motto here.
The economic advantage, though, still slightly in Otter's favor, so it's like if he can weather this storm, but Chip is not going to let that happen.
This might be a base race. This might be a base race. Chip is going to go straight for the new farm. Meanwhile, Otter going to try to wear down 8 stacks of poison, going to take it out first. Actually, they beat Otter, who takes out the first mill. ChipFromSpace hasn't even taken down his first mill yet. And Otter might actually get the second one and take the victory away. He's starving Otter, but there's only 1 mill left for Chip. And that's game.
Play!
That's game. Chip trying to go for the greedy base race, but he had nothing to stop the snakes.
What absolute composure and decision-making out of Otter. That was a phenomenal way to end that game. Chip, you could even tell he was a little bit indecisive at the end. His lizard's kind of splitting between the 2 mills, and he ends up taking out neither of them before Otter's able to take out the 2 from Chip. What a game. Being on the back foot for the entire match, Otter clinches it in the end with a base race.
And what a really nice thing about that, again, I mentioned before, it's not a terrible thing to lose warrens if your units are still alive, and he still had 2 snakes to do lots of damage.
That was great. I hope the chat better be blowing up after that. That was an awesome game. I'm so glad we're casting this one and another one. These elimination matches are awesome. Our town favorite here, ChipFromSpace, is heading into this next match down 0-1 against Scavenging Otter. This should be exciting.
Is 1 game away of possibly eliminating Chip from this qualifier. This might be a qualifier as we don't see Chip make it through. This is some scary stuff for Chip's side. He has to think about his plays now. Like, he was banking all in on this lizard play, poking his way in and out Otter. But again, Otter knows about these kind of plays. We saw him play against Jet, this exact style, and he held out.
And it's such tough decision-making to build up enough because, I mean, so often I've been in a situation like that, and I just don't have enough of an army to actually succeed in that base race. And so Otter was just doing such a good job of just hanging it on by his fingernails, building up enough of an army, and then moving out at just the perfect time as Chip was circling around again to start sniping those bases. So we thought Chip was catching Otter out of position, but it kind of turned out to be the other way instead.
And the thing is, like, Chip also lost his tier 2s there, so he's going to have to do a very good job of making sure they stay alive here this time. It's going to be game number 2, ChipFromSpace to the north and Otter to the south, as, once again, a little bit very close to each other, but at least they have more mills separating between them.
Hey, the borders aren't touching this time, so that's the least we ask for when checking out these matches.
They're like 3 tiles away from each other, so...
That's all you need for the Holy Ghost.
And right now, we're going to have them trying to get their first initial stuff down. It makes me wonder if Chip is going to go for that it looks like he is. He's still going to go for the 5-farm warrants here. So just get that early unit out. Also, Otter is going to get his out at the same time as well. So both sides making sure they have their units out for the early game.
I think after a match like that, both players are kind of like, whoa, that was really intense. I just got to play it safe. I'm going to do the 5-farm warrant thing. I don't want to be surprised by anything because, you know, your blood gets pumping and you get pretty hyped up after a match like that on both sides, win or lose. And so these guys are just going to evenly ramp up their economies without losing to anything crazy early on.
The scary thing about this is that there's a lot of pressure on Chip as basically the defending champion, as one of the strongest players in the scene. He's now one game away from elimination, possible elimination. So there's a lot riding on this for Chip if he wants to make it through to the top 8. And he's just trying to find a way to poke his way through. Both sides actually it's only Otter who's gonna go for the full 8 farms, and Chip just sticking with the 2 warrants to himself. Gonna have to go straight into farms though. He's gonna be behind in the economy at this point. He's not making any aggressive attacks, so he has to econ up as soon as possible.
And to be fair, though, I don't think there's any restriction on registration for these qualifiers. So if the terrible tragedy happens that Chip does not end up qualifying, he is eligible to play next Saturday. And more games casted by Chip is not always a bad thing either. So it's going to be a little bit probably rough for him if he doesn't make it, but we'll be able to see some more of his beloved play.
Right now, Chip's saving up money. Gonna get that tier 2 down. Snake's gonna be this time. He wants to make sure he eliminates anything that Otter brings at him. The Skunks, unfortunately, kind of got counted out with the help of pigeons that Otter brought to the table. He's still gonna keep Skunk. Skunk's still very nice of dealing with this tier 1 pressure, the mass tier 1. Just that this time he wants to make sure he has snakes, because snake poisons are so strong currently.
These snakes are going to be putting in some good work from Chip, so Otter's going to respond in kind, throwing down some snakes of his own. Chip's got the timing advantage here, so we'll see if the initiative on putting in a tier 2 warren is as strong as the initiative in tier 3 warren. And if he makes a push with these 2 snakes, but it looks like he might be deciding to move out and see what he can do right now.
This might be okay. He does have a snake out, but this is probably a little too early for him to be poking his head out. He doesn't have the full army at the ready yet, so if he loses engagement here, that could be a problem. So he's gonna have to back up for the time being. He doesn't have a pigeon yet, but he is gonna be able to snipe out a few squirrels with the help of the snake poison. Ooh, that snake goes very low. Oh no, the snake is down for the sudden chip. He loses the snake. He has to get his reinforcements back as soon as possible. Luckily, he does have more squirrels on the field currently, so he is going to be able to push away Otter for the time being. But that's a pretty bad loss, losing the snake that quickly. But at the very least, Otter is slightly supply blocked for losing all the squirrels.
That was some really nice micro coming out of Chip to keep that snake in the front, but unfortunately it was a little bit too close as Otter was able to focus that other one, and he's able to push Chip back to his base with this increasing squirrel ball.
Unfortunately, he loses his own snake at the same time. Luckily, he finally does have food to rebuild the snake. He didn't lose squirrels in that engagement this time. But Chip also has his army coming up. He's going to be building a warren of skunks as well, just adding on to that damage over time damage. Just making sure he's continuously pressuring Otter at every chance he gets right now. 2 snakes at the ready.
Got him out.
How much damage you're going to be poking at these mills? That's 4 stacks of poison. That should be enough to kill off that warren. He has to sell it off immediately. Just rebuild it elsewhere. And Otter, he's going to respond by building some more snakes.
That's a tough decision to sell off that pigeon warren. Like, you got to decide if you want to keep the existing pigeons with you, because when you sell a warren, you also sell the units associated with it. So that was a tough, instantaneous decision out of Otter, whether or not to keep them for an upcoming battle or sell them and reposition.
Problem is, it's only 3 pigeons, so it's not too big of a worry for him to resell it. They come out very fast. They're tier 1 units, so that's not the worst decision. Now, if that was a tier 2 warren, that would have been a different story for him. But
right. It's interesting when you have to make those calls. Like, do I want to get rid of these units and let this warren die, or vice versa?
Yeah, definitely. And right now, just sitting here waiting for the moment. Both sides just waiting for the armies to be fully replenished here. Chip from space has a massive army, by anyways. His army count is still higher than Otter's at the moment here. Here comes the gas and the snake poison. The combination of this is just destroying the snakes that Otter has on the field. And now it's slowly going to choke out these squirrels one by one. No amount of pigeon healing can deal with this much damage. At the very least, he was able to snipe out Chip's own snakes, but he still has a skunk on the battlefield, and these squirrels remain relatively untouched. And right now, it's a battle of the heels. Right now, we're going to see these pigeons work overtime for Otter at the moment, trying to make sure these units stay alive. He has 2 snakes back up in the field, but one just drops instantly. standing in the gas, plus all the squirrels doing a lot of DPS. But Chip also loses his skunks in the meantime. The squirrels were able to survive thanks to the help of the pigeons here. 6 pigeons to count for Otter at the moment to help his units, but the cost is that he lost a lot of units of his own, so both sides have to go back and lick their wounds.
The pigeons putting in some serious work for that snake because Otter had lost so many warrens that he just didn't have anything to reproduce with, and so that snake kind of single-handedly pushed back the forces of Chip. Unfortunately, he is still left in that position that he has no warrens to speak of, and so it's going to be a bit of a tough hold because Chip's got a pretty big army reproducing back at home.
No tier 1s for Otter. He has to make this next attack count. He has 4 snakes on the way. Hopefully they can do enough damage. So ChipFromSpace is building up a large amount of burst damage in the form of 2 warrens of toads. And now he's marching his way down. Otter has to react fast. He's going to pull his units back. He only has so many units. He can't lose them right now.
This is going to be a serious micro battle here because Otter can't win in just like a straight up face-to-face fight. He's got to be trying to pick these things up. You got to treat these like fox snakes.
Oh, the pigeon could be the stacking commander and not the snakes. This could be pretty big here. Chip is going to lose his snake first. Right now, both sides losing 6 on the right. The toad's doing a lot of damage to Otter's snakes, but he still has 2 at the moment. No, only 1 now. He has no more pigeons to defend his snakes, and his snake is now slowly dying. A very slow death here as Chip finally is going to be able to steamroll Otter. And that's game.
A well-fought match again on both sides. This was it definitely kind of came down to that engagement. I think that Otter was just a little bit... Chip's timing was really on point when Otter had taken that second gristmill because those extra farms he built just had not kicked in just yet. And so by the time he actually decided to push in with that skunk snake push, he just wasn't able to handle it. And it set him in the back foot.
And in that last battle, you see Chip just get a lot of value just killing off all those squirrel warrens real quickly here. So unfortunately, Otter, it was just kind of a matter of time for him before he lost out to the large army cap value that Chip had. But it was a very good attempt. He almost made it through, but 4 snakes not enough on their own.
Yeah, Chip going with the same deck that he's been running, and that is the painful part. When you lose a fight, it's bad enough just losing a fight, but if you lose a fight and lose the warrens afterwards, that's just kind of a double whammy. It makes it real tough to come back from.
Well, this time, their borders are not very close to touching each other, as Chip is going to be in the west side, as Otter to the southeast.
And pretty much mirror decks here, with the exception of the Badger-Fox switch. Otter opting for the Fox and ChipFromSpace taking the Badger with him. We'll see if the game goes long enough to get to that point, but otherwise mirrored builds.
It probably could. There's a lot of water blocking Otter from actually crossing to Chip's side of the map here and vice versa, so it's not going to be very easy for either of them to go for a very aggressive rush. At the very least, it's going to be like a battle across the river, just trying to zone out the other player from crossing and try to force the other into a bad position. But I think for this time being, we could see Tier 3s actually make their way through in this game.
I'll be curious to see if they end up doing, if we end up seeing something like a Tier 3 rush. I was kind of checking out on the Discord. It looks like Chip was running into a bunch of Tier 3 rushes today so far. If they do end up going for it, it'll be nice to see the battle between Badger and Fox and who wins. I kind of, in this current patch, I'm kind of on Team Badger.
It usually depends because just how fast the Fox is able to move out of the Badger's range. I don't believe this is the patch where Badger... let me double check the patch notes. I do have them up very quickly here. Just need to make sure.
I think he just has his health buff, but he might not have the.
Okay, so this is the patch where the Badger was nerfed slightly. You got a health buff, but also longer time for the minigun to wind up. Also, the warm down time is much faster, so it's easy to kite out of the Badger range for the Fox. But right now, you might not even get to see that chance. Chip is already attacking with the squirrels here, trying to take out a farm, and not going to be successful. It's going to defend.
That stings. That's a tough thing, losing all 3 squirrels for absolutely nothing.
The early aggro. He's just going to go all in for this Chip. He's going to go straight snake. This is going to be very interesting to do because this time, well, no, Otter is bringing pigeons to the table right now, so this is going to be a very scary situation for Chip, especially because he's spending so much time on getting these snakes up in the early game here. So he doesn't quite have a tier 1 army quite yet, but if he does have the time to get the snakes up, this could be very bad for Otter, vice versa. So you're going to see Otter just moving out his units very fast right now. He needs to make some sort of movement here to pressure Chip.
Coming out before this first snake hits isn't indeed a good timing, so Otter making the right choice here and moving in against Chip.
can have the pigeons there for the healing, just poking away at the Warrens here one by one. Seeing if he gets damage and Chip slowly. He is going to have the snake on the battlefield here right now, and he's going to try to focus that snake down. The snake is going to go down. He also loses his pigeons in the process and loses his entire tier 1 army. This is going to allow Chip to actually slowly advance on forward. His snake going to come in as reinforcement, but he's not going to press on. Warren's too tanky at the moment for him to decide to attack. That 10 extra HP matters a lot when you're running squirrels only, so he has to wait for his army to be together.
That definitely made the difference right there. And Chip's kind of, by the time Otter got to his base, Chip kind of equalized in the squirrel count, and then having that one snake out was just enough to tip it in his favor. And again, just kind of setting his snakes forward. I think usually whenever I play, I set him in the back, and it just doesn't really pan out well. But Otter's going up to that fox.
The tier 3. Here comes the fox. We're going to be building in the background. Chip. We're going to see. It looks like Chip is going to go on a scouting run. He probably suspects a tier 3 at this point. Like, yep, he sees it. Just
definitely got it there. Right. Yeah, so I like this move coming out of Otter. Ooh,
oh my gosh. Okay.
All right.
Okay, fake out. He's thinking that Otter is gonna be on a longer time limit here, so this time window, so Chip from space, he's gonna bulk down on 4 snakes here, while Otter is gonna go straight for a mill. He's changing things out a little bit here, trying to psych out Chip, but Chip is gonna see this change. He's gonna see there's no more fox to worry about. He also sees that there's only one Warden snake versus his 2. Also has more squirrel warrens than Otter does.
It looks like Otter's
everything basically.
Yeah, Otter's just deciding to instead of going for the tier 3, he's going to do the exact opposite and maybe try to transition into more of an economic game. His warrens are positioned in a really great way for defense of his main base, and his back expand there is not super accessible from Chip, at least not without Otter being wise to it.
If Otter can hold this position and get farms on his expansion, he will be able to come out on top just on pure economy alone. But right now, the numbers game is looking like it's in favor of Chip at the moment, and Otter has to pull back behind his warren. That squirrel, that was getting so much healing. But right now, here comes the army of snakes. The snakes on the front line trying to do as much poison as he can. The pigeon's healing up the snake very quickly here, as he does not lose any snake at all, it looks like.
That was a very good engagement for Chip. That's going to put Otter into a really tough spot, losing one of his snakes, and he's reproducing, and Chip's going to move in before he even has time to build everything back up.
And right now, Otter fighting the very hard fight here, trying to chip his way through, but there's so many pigeons now healing up all these snakes, and Otter doesn't really have much. He only has 3 squirrels left, probably even 2 left now. He's losing warrens as well, left and right here. 1 snake is left, but 1 versus 4 snake is not going to be enough here. And Chip, once again, may have done it. Otter's decision, unfortunate indecisiveness, may have just costed him the game.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, Chip definitely made the right decision. He scouted that tier 3 Warren really quickly and threw down those snake Warrens fast enough that I think it would have kind of neutralized a little bit of the Fox's effectiveness. So just kind of a good consistent game throughout, and Chip ends up taking it, and he is probably gonna. I mean, he's gonna qualify. Is it safe to say that? I don't want to call it out yet.
I'm pretty sure Chip has been able to qualify after this very close. I will say a very close set. The second 2 matches, unfortunately, were in Chip's favor, but that first game, wow, good decision from Otter. But unfortunately, he made an unfortunate decision here of not committing to the tier 3 and kind of pushing his own tempo a little bit too far backwards.
Yeah, that was a really cool game overall. It was really exciting to see that first game going to Scavenging Otter. I think, obviously, going into that match, Chip was the favorite, and so that was a really exciting beginning to it. And I think next up, BTM, we got